All right, hello and welcome back. Apologies yet again for being gone for another half a year. It seems like every single time that I make a video, I have to come back saying, well, hey, sorry I've been gone for literally forever, but here we are. Things just keep on, stacking up. Random things keep coming up in the IRL. And it's just been difficult to kind of continue to find ways to come back to making videos and, generally anything that requires being there for things. But I digress. Hope you guys are doing well. And today we've got quite the topic to jump into. I've thought about a lot of different ways to go about talking about this one. And there were a lot of different renditions that were super over the top. Some of them were so aggressive almost, looking back on it, but I took a step back and I gave it some time, and I think I've got a good package of a way to discuss this pretty openly and with no real biases or anything like that, anything nasty. But let's get right into it. So I have been bumping into people all over the place, friends, people online, family members. It's literally been everywhere, and it's all the same stuff. It's all the same symptoms, all the same signs of things. People are scared of boundaries. They're scared to be by themselves, and as a result, they distract from it. They try to push themselves away from the situation, from the quiet, and they dive into something to keep themselves distracted from dealing with it. So when I'm talking scared of boundaries, I'm literally talking people will not put down the phone. They are scared to stop talking to people because they're afraid they're going to hurt those people's feelings, or they're, afraid that they're going to cause some sort of commotion by not being permanently and chronically available online. And it's baffling to look at. I see people that will decide to not sleep to message people. I see people that will stop doing any activities just to make sure that they're available to talk to others for hours. I see people that are just scared to turn things off, to be by themselves, to go on a walk with nothing on, to do anything that they are not distracted during. And it's basically the new normal. It's something that with the world of media, the online age, where everything is available to us at all times, we kind of lose the ability to turn that off. You know what I mean? I think that is what I've seen over the years, and it's just continued to ramp up and up to the point that people can no longer deal with being by themselves without all this stuff around. I'll quite literally ask people, hey, how much time do you spend doing nothing? Just talking with yourself or just thinking with nothing on? How much time do you give that? How do you feel about yourself when nothing is distracting you? Do you feel fine? Do you deal with all this stuff okay? I would hope so, but unfortunately, the majority of people that I have talked to all say that they feel horrible when they turn everything off and when they just give themselves the time to think and deal with themselves. And it's a shame. It shouldn't be like that. But I gotta tell you, all this stuff, all these distractions, all of this, stuff to keep yourself from thinking about whatever you gotta deal with in life, whatever, is troubling you, anything that you have that's making you feel distressed or unhappy. Of course you can watch a YouTube video to try to de-stress or something. But if you're finding yourself just constantly pushing away any sign of confrontation or anything that you're trying to deal with in life, if you're trying to just distract and run away from everything all the time, you can't sleep without, having the phone by your side. You can't stop messaging people. You can't stop watching videos. You can't stop diving into TikTok. You can't stop, doing all these things to keep yourself occupied or to feel like you're being there enough for others and, chronically online, all this stuff. You gotta just relax. You gotta just vibe. I keep saying this more and more often. You gotta just vibe. People will not explode if you don't message them back immediately. And giving yourself time to be alone is something that is so much more beneficial and healthy than I think anyone gives it credit for. They just think that they're, wasting dead time. Like it's just a space and time that could be filled with something else, right? But maybe adding something more isn't really more. I think in such a busy age, we need to learn to make the time to do nothing. And I'm not even necessarily talking to sit down in a chair and just stare at a wall. I'm talking just put it all down. Just turn off the PC, put down the phone, let people chill, they'll be okay, and do something on your own with no distractions. For me, I like to exercise. I like to go on a run and just, let all the thoughts out and to deal with everything on my own there. There's endless ways for you to find the time to just exist and to just deal with whatever's on your mind. Let yourself speak to yourself and just kind of find some inner peace there by just dealing with whatever you need to deal with. It sounds simple, right? But I think as soon as most people these days turn off everything and actually start thinking, they're like, oh God, I gotta get out of my own head. And it sucks that it is that way, It shouldn't be like that. But I want to kind of tie this all together by telling a little tale. This is a topic that I really wanted to talk about because this was pretty much my life. Most of you guys watching probably watched me from Twitch streams, or you just know me from making art in general. And that entire period of my life, especially when I first started streaming, guilty as charged, that was the point where I started trying to find ways to do more of pretty much everything. More art, more ways to broadcast everything, put my entire life online essentially, streaming multiple things, multiple places all the time, finding giant projects to do, making merch, always trying to deal with all of these platforms and trying to make sure that I'm present everywhere, trying to make everyone happy and just make sure that all is good in the online world that I had sculpted or tried to put together, right? But I think over time, you guys saw, right? If you were part of the streams, over time, I started to fall apart, I think. I started to learn that I just could not exist by myself. I always had to be doing something. I always had to be working on some big project or streaming or doing something. Otherwise, I had nothing good to say. I always would have the worst spirals of just the world's falling apart, or I'm not gonna make it, or everything's bad. All this stuff compacted together. And as someone with generalized anxiety disorder, it had gotten to the point where me sitting down and doing anything, I would dread any time that I had to spend by myself. And it was because all of my insecurities, everything that I had dealt with in life, everything that I was going through right now, would all just smash together in one giant dumpster bin and just paralyze me completely. And I think the obvious problem was I had never dealt with any of it. I would just find ways to distract myself as soon as I felt bad about anything. And it just all weighed on me to the point that I couldn't even function normal anymore, doing anything. I was the person that would try to find ways to deal with everything that would just allow me to not think about anything and just do. And that is a horrible recipe for disaster. I'll tell you from experience. But yeah, it's changed my life, I think, to just sit down and structure a day to day that you can handle, but that also has balance to do nothing. Just enough nothing for you to have that space to think. Again, it could be you exercising, could be you doing some arts and crafts, could be you just doing anything in the world that allows you to have some alone time to think. Whenever I'm talking about this with someone who's struggling with this kind of stuff, I always compare this to shower thoughts. So I'll always start off with, well, hey, what do you do in the shower? I would hope you're not bringing your phone in there or watching TV somehow. But they usually answer that they think in the shower. And, I don't tend to think that people have a horrendous life experience in the shower. Like I think that people normally pop out and they're like, wow, that was really refreshing, you know, as you should. But it's akin to the same thing. When you give yourself the space to just think, your mind kind of takes out the trash on its own, right? You don't have to really think too hard about what to think about. When you have the space, your mind just kind of hashes through a ton of stuff on its own at random. Like, oh, hey, you know, what am I going to have for dinner? Pizza sounds kind of good. Oh yeah, what about that damn physics equation from last Tuesday? Didn't do too well on that test. Oh, what about fuzzy socks? Do those work in the summer, or like, is that a little egregious? You get what I mean? Your brain just kind of takes everything, looks at it, sorts it out, boom. Now it's not something that is going to continue to pry at you. Now, of course, this kind of stuff is going to have its ups and downs, right? Like you're going to have those types of silly thoughts. And the things that you really need to hash out with yourself will poke themselves in as well as they come to you. And it's important to make that space to let those types of things come up and to allow yourself to experience those things, hash them out, rationalize them, and understand them as you need to, so that you can just be okay, like to just be fine with who you are and all the things that you've experienced, and just allow yourself to have peace and quiet when you have peace and quiet, instead of to have this sort of maelstrom in your brain of just stuff that you've never dealt with. I think that's kind of the world that we're starting to fall into, is just a place where we're so able to do everything all the time that we can never do nothing ever, if that makes sense. We literally just never have the ability to sit with ourselves and deal with things we need to deal with. So again, I'm rambling at this point, but that is kind of the idea. You know, just let yourself put everything down. You're not going to make anyone upset for giving yourself time to be okay. You're never going to disappoint anyone for setting boundaries. You don't have to find 1,000,002 different ways to distract yourself from the life you're living. Please don't do that. I used to do that, and that's why I'm here today, to talk about how coming back from that and just leading a much more balanced life and just trying to make time for myself has changed me entirely and made me so much more of a whole feeling person, that looking back at my former self and just all of those years of feeling constantly awful anytime there was a down tempo moment, you shouldn't have to feel like that, you know? And of course, it's not going to be easy to sit down with yourself at first, because you're going to have a lot of thoughts to go through, right? Like you're going to have a lot of stuff to catch up with yourself on. But I think as you continue to allow yourself to have that time, it'll get easier and easier. And you'll just be able to find things to do that you enjoy, that you can do on your own. And just give yourself that space to, again, just decompress, relax, and just do nothing. But anyways, that's about it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Wishing you all the very best as always. And that's about it for me. I'll see you guys later.